Hello there everyone, welcome back to Starseed and Soul Fractals. So today we're going to be doing another reading channeled card transmission, so to speak. And this one is specifically the light codes that are landing through the Lion's Gate. I'm using several different decks. Some of these I have created, some of them I have not. I will just show quickly. So I'm using this Unveiling the Golden Age by Izzy Ivy. I'm using the Starlight Codex and Star Guides Reminders that I have created. Then I'm also going to be using, for this specific reading, Gateway of Light activation cards, as well as the Cosmos Tarot and Oracle. Okay, I have decided to go for these decks just to support the collective in the transmission, as well as just receiving the reading in the highest way possible. Okay, so we're looking at what codes are landing within, say, the next 3 months. Could be quicker, could be simultaneously, could be within the next few weeks, could be one by one. Okay, so there's a lot of ways these codes can land through this gateway portal. And I have already shuffled and dealt the cards. So the main theme that we're going to be looking at is free will, as well as persistent presence. And what's really coming through here is to know that we all have free will to act upon, to believe, to have faith, to manifest, to be here, to do anything, really. We do have free will, and our free will should always be used for the highest good of all involved, of course. So the definition of free will doesn't necessarily mean that you just get to do whatever you want to do if it's hurting others or if it's actually limiting other people's free will. Okay, so we should always be aware that just like we have free will, other people also have free will, and it shouldn't be used as a means to control what other people do with their free will. And this channel, by the way, is not religiously inclined to any kind. It's more so spiritual, without this religious sort of dogma or anything. But I just wanted to mention, because I do know that especially in the Ascension community, there could be a lot of people that are kind of Christian, that are leaning a little bit more towards Christianity. And the thing about Christianity is that a lot of people have, for example, taken Jesus Christ's words for making people his students as sort of like, yeah, let's just convert everyone to Christianity. But I don't think that's what he actually meant, because Jesus was also a person who loved being with the outcasts, so people like sick people and all kinds of people that were really marginalized in the community. And he wasn't really about this exclusion or this like, let's only serve the rich people or something, so that's just one thing. And another thing is, this is just what I learned when back in the day when I was a Christian. God gave people free will to either believe in him or not, or her. This also something people have many beliefs in. Some people believe that God is a man, or masculine, whatever the fuck that means, or that God is a feminine force. Okay, so there's just a lot of like, these are belief systems that we can either take or we can ignore, and we should just be aware of that everyone has their own free will to believe in whatever they want. People have free will to ascend if they want to, and ascension also is a choice. Okay, so while yes, we are indeed witnessing some frequency rising, which of course is showing the harsher, the more darker energies that are living, sort of lurking within the collective, and just this planet itself. We are seeing all of that come up to the surface. I think that's something that's important to remember. And we have to be persistent. I think what this is actually corresponds to Nine of Wands. And so what this reminds us of, this specific card, the specific message, is to be persistent in our light and to remember to share from that place of love, empowerment, strength, and sovereignty, instead of kind of going back into this converting tactics and going back into this like propaganda and this harmful, like, okay, now everyone must believe what I believe, or that there is only one God and that one God is the Christian God, or that there's only one path to ascension. There's a lot of paths to ascension. Even I believe, look, this might be radical, but I believe that even atheists can be ascending, okay? Because if an atheist has an open enough heart, and they're not, say what I call a religious atheist, which is like when their atheism and their belief in science is more like a religion than like an actually what science is, which is experimentation, and science is constantly proving itself either wrong or right. It's like it's constantly adjusting, right? So I think that's where someone is very enlightened when they're able to approach their life scientifically, but not rigidly, and without this need to like convert everyone, right? So I think this is what these cards are really reminding us of, and they're also calling us to use our free will in a way that is aligned with the highest use of our life force, and in accordance with not just our soul plan, but again the highest good of all involved, with the sort of highest frequency of love light that we can anchor in at this time, because that, I find, is what the world desperately needs, is more love. And yes, sure, we all do need boundaries. I think the Nine of Wands does speak about boundaries as well, and protection, but it shouldn't be coming out of fear. It should be coming out of, okay, look, what's the best for everyone involved? What is the highest use of our life force in this scenario? And please don't fall into, this idea that all of the marginalized people are like some kind of evil, okay? That's just brainwashing, okay? That's just one thing I wanted to remind people of, because that's just part of my job as a sort of, I guess, wayshower. Can I use that word? Maybe I can. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so let's dive in to what activations we are going to be receiving. So I received sort of like 3 different categories. I'm not sure if this is like groups, or if this is like, here's activation 1 that's coming to us, and then there's this second one, and whatever. They didn't really give me any more directions, but I will put those timestamps in the video, so that then you can maybe feel intuitively if all of these are for you or not, and perhaps you can come back and see if something does indeed resonate with you later. But we're also going to dive deep into each of these in the month by month breakdown that I'm doing on my Patreon. So at the same time, this is also my launch for my Patreon page, so please do support me over there if you want to see this channel grow, if you want to support me producing higher quality content and different kinds of content. Okay, so I've been thinking about putting out this podcast, and I would really love to, but it costs money. So even if you support me for like the highest tier, if $15 or euros, and if you support me with that, I could do like my podcast every month. Okay, so because it costs monthly, it's on a monthly basis, so I could do that even if I got just one person to support me with that. Okay, so with that promotion aside, let's get into this reading. Okay. Our first codes, we have Gaia Gateway activation. So some of us are really tuning into what's coming from deep within the earth, from the higher realms of earth, and learning experience. I mean, of course, we all come to earth to learn new things, and especially for us starseeds, we have been in these higher frequencies for the majority of our lifetimes. So then when we come back, what? I don't know, maybe we do come back. Some of us go back and forth. See, some of us do go back and forth, and some of us come here to learn again. Some of us come here to integrate. But for majority of us starseeds, this is an expansive experience because, ironically, within the contraction of some of the Earth's frequencies and from these very grounding frequencies, which I do have to share something about, I've been really drawn to using tourmaline because it calms me down so much. Like, especially if I go out there in the public transport, it's really good for that stuff because, my life has been hectic with moving. I am moving to another city. So I have really needed that. I really needed that sort of protection and this like grounding and almost like calming and centering frequency of the tourmaline. So I can, recommend that if you're having trouble with, grounding or something similar where everything's just kind of like moving and it's very hectic and stuff. And we are here to share our wisdom, of course. So our wisdom from not just from those past lives, okay, let's be present also. Let's see what we have learned in this specific lifetime as humans, in human form. And what kind of learning experiences we have had over these last few months. I feel like this card is specifically pointing towards integrating what we have learned during the summer months especially, and then transmitting that wisdom in one way or another. And each of us, we're going to have our own ways to do that. Some of us might be artists, like myself, and some of us might be something different, maybe teachers, counselors, anything like this. And again, this is where I think I want to remind us over to that big branching theme that we have for this Lion's Gate, because that specific message was about free will. Okay, so if you are in a position to guide and counsel and teach others, don't just blurt out your wisdom to anyone. Be really conscious and aware and mindful if it's the right place and time, okay? I see this all the time with spiritual people. Sometimes they just kind of, and look, I don't have anything against info dumping, so this isn't necessarily about that, but it's like some people just kind of blurt things out when, say, someone's just going through a bad time. Let's say someone's just lost a pet, and then someone goes, "Oh, he's with the angels," or this pet is, whatever, and like it's not always the best idea to say that, right? Even though I know the intention there is probably good, and then there's people who kind of spiritually bypass a lot, so don't be that person. Okay, because that's also not healthy. That's not going to be as useful as we think. And see, this Andromedan message actually goes really well with this message. On the go of your current experience is where you find checkpoints to shift your experience. Those experiences are turning points. So we are in fact at a turning point with this energy as well. We are turning in the wheel of the year into sort of like, I'm pretty sure this is like this is the first harvest actually. The 1st of August, around 1st of August anyway, is the first harvest festival in the northern hemisphere, and then of course in the southern hemisphere I think it's of course it's the spring, and I think it's Imolc actually. I think it's actually Imolc in the in the sort of yeah, it is because then Halloween is Beltane, yeah. So it's Imolc in the, or Candlemas in the southern hemisphere. So we're sort of in this purifying chamber, if that makes sense, and preparing to sow our seeds and plant for the new season. So it is a turning point either way, turning the wheel of the year into the next sort of micro season where we're going to be preparing for either the fall or the spring. And we gotta really be aware of our experiences at this time. So when I said about learning experiences, yes, that is indeed very relevant. And there's also this understanding of, if we're not having the best experience, how can we first of all accept it and also simultaneously call in something that is more of what we want? That's some manifestation 101. Like, we can always shift our experience, and we can always take learning lessons from an experience. So instead of just like complaining or dwelling in the suffering of each experience, we can start to take lessons and learn from it. So that's just the that specific one. And then we have the page of air. Pisces or strenuous aid, protection or retreat card is. So we're coming back to that protection theme here. Okay, I feel that this message, this card can apply in a couple of ways. One of these ways is, okay, you might have this ego situation where you sort of think that you are protecting someone or something by doing something, and you're sort of acting from a place of fear. But this could also be in a way where you might be retreating or taking a backseat for your own protection, or for a higher path to unfold. Okay, so I think some of you all need to learn that it's sometimes okay to give up. Sometimes it's okay to, stop what you're doing, take a step back, and, mind your priorities, right? That's what I'm getting. Like, it's important to mind your priorities and to really know what's the most important. And it's not always the smartest thing to just push through and go towards whatever this end goal or this thing is, if it's causing you immense suffering, or if it's causing this awful strain on everyone around you. But this could also be like an ego thing. So perhaps some of you are indeed dealing with some wounds around like fear. Maybe you might be wondering if you're like a coward or something. You might be having these kind of negative thoughts about either yourself or your life or something. But this is also saying that there is some support and messages of support especially coming through. So if you need help from somebody, do ask for it, because this card is also saying that you will indeed be able to receive help. So just don't be afraid of receiving help. Maybe that's also like a message for some of you, that you'll have to allow for that support to come through. And that support can also come through the Andromedans and the Earth beings. Okay, so the Earth card also said, well, the Gaia activation also says Earth intelligence. So there's something within the Earth, perhaps trees. I have this wonderful friend. They absolutely love tree energy. So I just immediately thought of that. And so that's like one. Then of course like earth elements, also like fairies, gnomes, beings like this, goblins, elves, and then like any other beings. I'm getting like sylphs because of the page of air, and also like water elementals, different kinds of water elementals. And then of course like the Andromedans, like I said, for some of us the Andromedans are very much our soul family. Okay, so this was codes and activations number 1, maybe coming within the next month or so. I'm getting the next 1 or 2 months. This is what's going to be some of our transformation. And we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this, like month by month, a bit of a month by month breakdown for the Patreon community. So transmission activation number 2, interesting. We've got Merkaba activation, transcendence, ascension, you are rising up. So for some of us, and I say maybe for all of us, at some point, we're going to be having massive Merkaba activations. Oh yeah. So that's kind of what the Merkaba looks like. I have already packed up my Merkaba crystals, so I cannot show them. But you can perhaps imagine something like this, sort of spinning around in your energy field and just feel that surge of energy activate through your beingness. And the Merkaba can also be a protective vehicle. So this will allow us to transcend any of those limitations, especially any of those ego limitations. I do find that for some of us these are going to be useful together, these activations, because the Merkaba frequency is going to help, first of all, protect you, and it's also going to, with ascension, we are experiencing clearing most of the time, because we're going to be seeing what our ego perhaps has been up to, and we're going to become a lot more aware of that. We're going to be becoming a lot more aware of our egoic levels, our mind, our body, our emotions, our brain, our nervous system, all kinds of things, okay? There's a lot that has to do with the egoic levels, so I kind of tend to think about it as a little bit more bigger than just the psychological idea of ego, or even just like some spiritual ideas of ego. So I like to think it as a broader term. Sort of like, if you're familiar with Sandra Walter, that's kind of how she describes it, and that's kind of, I kind of go with that specific idea of the ego. So quite broad term, so to speak. And then we have Vega, pure Vega light codes. Okay, so the Vegans are supporting us to, first of all, centering. I'm seeing like almost this, like, yeah, the Taurus field. I'm seeing the Taurus field. They're helping us fine-tune our Taurus field as we work with this Merkaba frequency and these higher ascension light codes. And they're helping us sort of fine-tune our frequencies. That's what they're helping us with right now for these Lionsgate frequencies. And going forward, of course. So for the next 3 months, I would say this would come around from like the next 2 months that you are watching this, within or starting at that point. Perhaps 2 to 4 months. And just remember that the star beings don't always show up like physically, so you may not see them like physically, but you might feel and experience them. The way that the Vegans tend to show up energetically is almost like this monk-like frequency, and it is still very bright, very high vibrational, and it's very musical also. So there's that kind of frequency that has to do with the Vega frequency. And they are a part of the Lyra, but they're more of like the introverted, internal part of Lyra that isn't so like loud and explorative and sort of outspoken and just this fire energy. Vega is more like a stillness, more like a plasma. I think that's the better way to describe, because it's not necessarily liquid, it's not necessarily just air or gas, but it's more like a plasma, a fluid frequency. And I do find that, Andromedans are also kind of similar. Then we have the 9 of Earth with Pavo, which is vigilance, watchfulness, guidance. Okay, so we're having another 9 card, this time it's Earth. And we're being called to really receive guidance, especially from the Vegans, in this time, on how to be like vigilant and hold on to our spiritual discipline, and to just really hone in on our practice, because that's going to be really important for for the time for this activation to land is this consistency. That's what I'm getting, the consistency, and just awareness. And the watchfulness isn't necessarily about, okay, just watching out because we have to protect from the demons or something. It's not like that. This is more so awareness and watchfulness over the guidance and the signs, the symbols, everything that's coming through, everything that's happening. So we're continuing on this understanding, learning from our experiences, but instead it's coming just more of this subtle awareness. So it isn't like this, we're sort of processing constantly, but we're sort of like, oh, look, that's what that was about. This is what I'm learning now. This is what is happening right now. So that's kind of what that is all about for us. Well, this is such an interesting card. It's like well, of course, this is a peacock, and this is the Pavo constellation. So that constellation might also provide stellar light codes, perhaps, for some of us. And there's a lot of gold in this card. That's just what stood out to me. So the golden frequency, especially in combination with that Merkaba, and then of course the eyes on the peacock's feathers. So the third eye, as well as any kind of vision, any kind of ability to see, clairvoyance, that could also come into play for some of us. Perhaps some of us are having like third eye or fourth eye or even fifth eye upgrade. I know some of us have like multiple eyes, and then of course we have the seal chakra on the back of our heads. And so that's sort of like the backside of the third eye, so to speak. And that's actually something that some of us actually need to work through, okay? Because that can actually help us really clear some obstacles to receiving guidance. It can help us clear blocks towards receiving guidance, and it can help us connect better with the causal chakra, which is at the back of our heads. It can also help us. It can actually help us clear limiting beliefs and ego, addictions, any kind of harmful mental patterns, because there's a lot of stuff that tends to get, just dropped in the back of our heads. So that's kind of what clearing the seal chakra actually helps with. And we can experience a lot more this sort of mental calm when we do that. So that's the activation number 2 that felt really short, but this is really quite a high frequency message. It's important for us to really stay tuned to our guidance, our own guidance, our guides, the Vega beings, perhaps the avian beings from the Pavo constellation, golden frequencies, Merkaba activations. So just work with your guides to work with the Taurus field and the Merkaba energy field as well. Now I need a sip of my decaf coffee before we go into the third part of this reading. So first of all, thoughts, light codes, light initiation, great teacher, awakening, divine magic. That's beautiful. I love it. Ancient Egypt. Words, language again. But yes, some Egyptian thought, avian, light codes, more Andromedans. Okay, Andromedans are really strong with the Lion's Gate apparently. May the good fights be fought and brilliant warriors be loth. So loth equals to thought in light. Okay. Okay, so the warrior archetype here is we're looking at archetype, warrior archetype, defending and doing what's right, and yes, initiations, light initiation, great teacher, awakening, divine magic, and then may good fights be fought and brilliant warriors be loth, taught in light. Yes, okay. This this is saying a couple of things. So for this specific activation, some of us are becoming teachers, and we need to really be aware of our power, okay? Because sometimes with sort of like a teacher-student dynamic, or even if we are like teaching sort of our peers, so people that maybe also are teaching or also are way showers or guides and whatever. So whenever we are sort of teaching others, we need to be aware that it's again coming from the highest place, from the place of highest love and light and the highest good of all involved. So we shouldn't be creating these sort of hierarchical power dynamics, because that's just not healthy. That's just not in the highest good of all involved. We are as a collective shifting away from that. The new paradigm does not support these kind of power differences. But if this is sort of like a thing where, say, somebody is actually like a teacher in a school or something, there obviously is like this a bit of a power difference anyway, because one person is adult and then another one isn't. If there is this like an actual power difference, or if you or somebody else is in a power in a position of power where they sort of do have power over us in a certain way. I think it's important here, especially to just be like not get like cocky or arrogant or drunk of this power, and to use it really responsibly, and to just know that it's important to still think about the good of that person. Here's the thing: if somebody is like really problematic, if someone's causing a lot of problems, and it's the kind of like, let's say someone's like really toxic or abusive in a workplace, and you have the power to make some kind of difference in that kind of situation, then it would be for the highest good of all to remove that toxic person from that place, and to not like make like these excuses for them, because even if they give the company money, that I believe that isn't ethical still. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was sort of a side tangent, because then that person might actually be draining other people's energy, and that then is going to actually lose money from the company or whatever place that is. Oh, interesting. Then there is also this Water of Night scutum: protection, preservation, and defense. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so this is actually just saying, and it kind of does sort of go with the other messages, to kind of make sure we stand up, not just for what's right, but what's civil, what's humane, what's in the highest love light frequencies, and to make sure that we are really doing things from the right place and with the right reasons, okay? Because sometimes there are ways in which humanity thinks about protection and this defense and preservation. It's in this sort of like very conservative way, and it's this very much like, okay, we must keep certain ways of going about things around, but who are we then defending? Okay, just think about that, and think about who then gets to suffer. Okay, this isn't about going to a fight for its own sake, but think about if you are protecting or supporting a certain group of people, or perhaps animals, or someone who doesn't have a voice, then you might actually be fighting for a cause that is going to also support the greater collective, because any suffering on this planet really that is unjustified, that just happening because somebody or something exists as it is, that is not fair, that is not right, that is not something that we should be dealing with, okay? And it is not equal. But what this is saying, though, is that these sort of protection codes are also coming through in this transmission. And I do keep on hearing like fight for what's right. Actually, in the now I understand it. Oh my god, it was so grounded. I made it too complicated. Okay, I let my brain get too much in the way. So in the public reading for YouTube, the last activation the Andromedan said, "May the good fights be fought." Okay, and this is what it was about. This is exactly what it was about. Okay, because sometimes we do need to confront people. We do need to actually speak up, speak to people instead of, you know, being passive aggressive or like, again, like coping. Like, this is the definition of coping. Like, we're just sort of like, well, just take this cake and go away. You know, we don't want to do that. We want to just like be mindful. I mean, perhaps in some situations that is, you know, applicable, but I would say in most, you know, healthy human connections where we aren't constantly coming from our trauma, we do have to tell people, okay, look, here's what's really bothering about, you know, this whole situation, and here's how I feel, and I would like to hear again your point of view. But again, if something there is imbalanced, if someone is like draining you, you have to be willing to confront them and offer a solution and set a boundary, right? So that's, I think, what was also coming through. But over here, okay, here's another message that's coming through. This preservation for its own sake. Okay, so just become really mindful of where you might be in this mode of preservation, where perhaps you need to actually take a step away from, so that you can fully initiate in your light, and you can fully really take your light and your teachings forward. Oh, and okay, yes, this is also showing like the maybe the shadow side of the warrior frequency. Okay, so when someone's really heavily leaning into the warrior frequency, they can get overly defensive, they can be impulsive, aggressive. Okay, so be mindful of that, because that's sort of the, we don't want to go from that frequency alone. Okay, and that usually isn't really helpful if someone's just like and they're kind of like shouting, and they're just pushing their sort of aggression onto others. But when it comes to, you know, light, there's a certain frequency there, and when it comes to love, there's a certain frequency there. Okay, the warrior of light and the teacher of light and the leader of light is not the same as what we see in the war zone, or in the I don't know, some Christian Catholic school or something. Like those are not the same, you know, they're not the same frequencies. It's different to teach from dogma versus teaching from a place of wisdom. So the wisdom codes and the intelligence is also, the earth intelligence is also coming through these codes as well. This divine magic is one thing that's coming through, especially with the avian and the Egyptian frequencies. So some of us might be uncovering certain codes from perhaps our past lives in Egypt, and as well as any blue avian codex and Andromedan light codes that support us with divine magic. And I think it would be helpful to, during this time when these codes are landing, to do some protection magic. And, you know, some level of defensive magic, I think, is also okay. Because sometimes there does have to be like a universe, like a balance in the universe. Okay, so something like that could be good. However, personally, I don't, you know, support cursing, because I'm not sure if that's specifically balanced, and that kind of just feeds more negativity into the world. But something like Return to Sender, that's quite neutral, that's gray magic, and I'm not against that at all. But you do have to be the one to send that, you know, be the one to return to sender. Okay, because I find that if we're sort of receiving that from somebody else, like a spell to return to sender to somebody else, then it may not be as sort of like a straightforward, you know, thing. But protection magic, just any kind of wisdom magic, wisdom receiving and just receiving that higher intelligence of love light, and being able to really teach from a place of enlightenment rather than ego, and to not to get too heavily into this warrior mentality. I think that's what's going to be really useful for most of us during this time. So that is our reading for today for the Lionsgate activations that are coming to us through this next few months, and some of them simultaneously. Thank you for watching, and do please support me on Patreon if you want to see more higher quality content, if you want to see additional content, which is what I provide in the rewards. There's starseed channelings, and then there's monthly transmissions, and then there's also like this huge library of content that I have already published prior to this, and I'll keep on dropping some of those during these next few months as we go, just as additional bonus content, which I've also published on my Ko-fi, by the way. But the thing with Ko-fi is you can also just pay once, but here on Patreon you will be able to support me month by month, but of course you can always cancel at any time if you should choose. Okay, so thank you for watching, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye.